Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Obviously, it's Thursday, and I'm so happy that you all are here for another and third edition of our Boots on the Ground HBCU Summer Wind Down. And summer is definitely cooling down around here. My name is Diashin Terrell, and I serve as the program coordinator here at In Our Own Voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda. And I'm so excited and happy to be here with you today to continue this powerful series. Each week in August, as you know, we have been spotlighting young leaders, organizers, advocates who are actively reshaping reproductive justice on their HBCU campuses. Today, we are digging into a topic that doesn't always get attention, but it deserves some attention, but it is also absolutely essential. Comprehensive sexual health education and contraceptive equity. We know that access to sex ed and contraception is not just about personal health, it's about power, personal autonomy, and justice. Too many students at HBCUs are navigating misinformation, stigma, institutional silence when it comes to their sexual and reproductive health. That has been a real issue, having real consequences, not just for individual students, but for broader goals for reproductive justice on campus as a whole. So, in today's conversation, we will talk about what gaps exist in sexual health education at HBCUs, the impact, like what does it look like, the lack of access and information that students have on campus, as well as through campus culture, and most importantly, what faculty, staff, students, and institutional leaders can do to support youth-led solutions. And with that being said, I am so happy to break all of this down into this conversation, into tangible nuggets with the amazing Dr. Nikisha Floyd, the Associate Director for Racial Justice and Sexual Education at Advocates for Youth. Dr. Floyd brings a deep expertise in equitable sex ed policy. Hey now, policy and practice. And she's also a fierce champion for Black youth and HBCUs in particular. Dr. Floyd, we are honored to have you here with us. Can you please share a little bit more about your background and the work that you are doing at Advocates for Youth?
Absolutely. First, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So I am the Associate Director for Racial Justice at Advocates for Youth. It's work that I absolutely love. In this position, I have the opportunity to create health education, particularly sexual health education, online modules for educators around what does it look like for education to be culturally responsive, right? So it's not even culturally competent, but culturally responsive. And so it's important that our young people are able to see themselves in their sex education curricula. And so one of the things that I do is I create resources for teachers to help drive that goal and that outcome. And then why I love actually being here and talk about HBCUs. I am an HBCU graduate. I graduated from the illustrious, we always have to put that in front, right? The illustrious North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina, where I also now serve as an adjunct public health education professor. And so I have the opportunity to work with students on campus, my alma mater. But so I have like two sides of this conversation. So one, knowing what needs to be done, but then also in the position to help implement the things that we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So knowing the theory and having the application to put it into practice, I love to hear it. Thank you so much, Dr. Floyd, for that introduction. It is truly an honor to have you here with us today, and we want to dive deep into the golden nuggets that you will be sharing with us. So let's get started by setting the scene for folks who may not be familiar with the current landscape around sexual health education at historically Black colleges and universities.
Yeah.
We all know that conversations about sex ed and contraceptions are often a little limited. Sometimes it can be seen as taboo or even just completely absent on many campuses. But those gaps have real impacts on students' health, autonomy, and their ability to fully access reproductive justice. So, Dr. Floyd, I just want to get into, can you speak to what you're seeing right now, being that you are actively, at the campus of North Carolina? And you are working, what are some of the biggest gaps in sex ed at HBCUs? And how
Mhm.
are students and faculty attempting to fill those gaps if they are or can at all?
Yeah, yeah, very good questions. So I will say, of course, every university looks different, but there are some common themes when we're talking about HBCU. So we know that majority of our HBCU campuses are located in the South. And so, with that, we also um, know that there's a history of a lack of resources in many of the communities or around the campuses, especially when we're talking about a lack of access to quality healthcare services, right? And so many of our students are also coming as first generation students, and often some from communities or even rural areas that may have limited resources and limited education, right? On when it comes to sexual health education, so many of them come into the classroom only having been exposed to abstinence only education programs and not uh, programs or curriculum that are comprehensive, that taught medically accurate information. I know that when I was in the position of teaching, like the basic health education course, like the course that everyone has to take, I would spend majority of my time on the sexual and reproductive health section of that health course,
Mm,
because that was where students really craved the information, because they came in with a lack of knowledge around their just basic bodily anatomy and physiology, right? Not knowing what does what. And
yeah.
so, and so it was really just like an eye opening experience for me, because well, majority of my career was working in K-12 health education, right? I was able to see how what is not done in K-12 education, how it impacts students when they get to college. So I saw that entire like trajectory.
Right.
Yeah, and so really seeing that one of the major gaps is just the lack of sexual health education, comprehensive sexual education. But then there are also additional gaps that I see, like um, students who may identify as LGBTQ plus, not feeling seen or affirmed on
Yeah.
HBCU campuses, where I think that's a place that we could do a whole lot better with making sure we're supporting our students. Of course, uh, one thing that we often know, and I talked about just the location of HBCU campuses being in the South, many of them are under resourced because they're underfunded. They're grossly underfunded, right? And I think many people don't, they look at the university, but they don't look at the policymakers or legislators who determine the budget and oftentimes
Mhm.
cut HBCU's budgets down significantly, which impacts the resources that are then available on campus. So I think like when we start looking at all of these different issues, they can create very unique challenges for our students, and there are a lot of ways that we can really hone in and find ways to support them.
I love how you brought in the financial aspect as well as the policy piece, and even
Mhm.
most importantly, the lack of foundational understanding of natural anatomy
Mhm.
within students. It's like I don't know how we can start off a conversation about pleasure or anything else when you don't know your left from your right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, oh no, we have to go down really to the basics, right? And so
Hmm.
um there, like I said, there's so many different things, but those are some of the things that like really stand out to me.
I'm so thankful that you brought that up. That's such an important point, especially when we think about how often things are being misplaced with misinformation, especially within like the social online space. Everybody is a guru, everybody has a book,
Yes.
everybody knows everything. However, there's so much space for misinformation to grow and spread when
Hmm.
students aren't given the proper access and to medically accurate, culturally relevant sexual health education. They're left to figure things out on their own, and
Hmm.
that often leads them down a path that they don't want to go on.
Right.
So I just want to dive a little bit deeper.
Sure.
What does the impact look like with lack of sexual health education access, and what does that have, how does that have a broader impact on the reproductive justice outcomes for students,
Hmm.
especially Black women,
Hmm.
like you noted earlier, LGBTQ folks and students on campus, and
Hmm.
other marginalized communities?
Yeah, yeah. Once again, very powerful questions, because I think about um, how uh, oftentimes young people are not getting the information they need until it's too late, right? So ultimately, it's they're getting information after something has happened,
Yeah.
and then not even knowing the resources that are available on campus to help them navigate what's going on with them. Example, students who may find themselves in a situation of dealing with a sexually transmitted infection, and not knowing that they have testing available on campus or some campuses. Where to go, how to get there, what it all entails, and so that ultimately impacts their sexual and reproductive health outcomes because one, they may be trying to navigate seeking services, but it's on prolonged or ongoing because they don't know exactly where to go, what to do, and
Yeah.
what that looks like. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that really come to mind, and that's um, one of the ways that I think again faculty, we can really support young people in even mentioning, whether it be in our health classes or any type of, actually across the board, right? There are opportunities for all faculty to bring in conversations around sexual health or reproductive health in their curriculum, because we can look at it from sociology, we can look at it from psychology, we can look at it from math, if you want to look at
Mhm.
statistical data, right? There are so many different ways that we can have the conversation, and then also letting students know about the resources that are available to them on campuses or near campuses, or creating partnerships with organizations that can help support students who need testing or who need other types of access to quality sexual health care.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to add to that is having access to sexual health, sexual health and reproductive health information at an earlier age definitely decreases stigma,
Absolutely.
especially for in Black people are traditionally more traditional,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially when we look at like our religious backgrounds, and
Hmm.
purity culture is a
Hmm.
whole thing
Hmm.
within itself. But letting students know, like, hey, this is the information, this is how you can move with it in respect to your, your religious beliefs, your personal beliefs, your
Hmm.
ethics, whatever.
Hmm.
But you have the information to make a informed decision
Mm-hmm.
about your choices within your body can definitely help dispel a lot of stigma
Mm-hmm.
on campus, whether it's like sexual assault,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is STIs,
Mm-hmm.
even just overall dating culture. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that comprehensive sexual health education covers,
Yeah.
not just like you said the STIs or anything like that, but there's so many pieces, and I appreciate you for noting those places where the lack of education could
Mm-hmm.
definitely be fine-tuned and picked up if
Yeah.
folks actually share the information.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up around just like the conservative nature of, many HBCU campuses. Once again, I think, part of that is just that Southern culture as well, for many. But one thing I definitely want to highlight what you said is that, um, many times, folks are trying to place their moral or values on other people, and
Hmm.
that ultimately ends up creating such a, like you said, that stigma. And so I often love to use the analogy of, like, you know about like a student talking to another student and saying, as if they quote giving somebody the tea, right? And saying, "Hey, girl, guess what I heard? I heard such and such gave such and such the flu." And I say, now, so you see how that sounds? It doesn't. It's weird
It's
to.
silly.
It's silly to say that. And so the same way that you could think about the flu, also think about other sexually transmitted infections and how that stigma. It doesn't make sense. We need to really start trying to normalize conversations around sexual and reproductive health overall, and not
Absolutely.
tying or putting that moral attachment to it, because it creates so much stigma that ultimately gets our young people into situations of trouble at times.
And that's why this information, this conversation is so vital, because we know that reproductive justice is not just about access to abortion or contraceptives. It's about having the information, having the resources to make
Mm-hmm.
decisions,
Absolutely.
informed decisions
Absolutely.
about our bodies and our futures.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to our HBCUs falling short on sex ed, they're not just failing their students, they are failing our collective liberation movement. We are really trying to cultivate a space where students are knowledgeable about not only themselves, but how they can take this information, see themselves within others, and then collectively grow their power with each other.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, Dr. Floyd, I would like for us to move forward and discuss some solutions for faculty, staff, and institutional leaders. We've talked about the importance of what we could do for our students as far
Yeah.
as getting them the education and combating stigma within peer groups. But I really want to get into what can faculty members do to uplift reproductive justice programs, initiatives on their campus for their
Mm-hmm.
students.
Mm-hmm. Oh, um, so many things come to mind, right? I think, like, one, young people are constantly telling us what they need, right? And it's up to us to listen, and it's up to us to be responsive. And so I think there are opportunities to create partnerships with organizations that ultimately support and um, um, push sexual health and reproductive health initiatives. I think about organizations like Advocates for Youth, or the organization here in our own voice, and Sister Song, and um, the HBCU Wellness Collective, which is one that I just learned about, and I'm so excited
Mhm.
to connect with them. But just having ways that we can partner with them, have students do internships with folks, and so that was one thing. I love having interns, right? Especially from HBCUs, and I had an intern who she talked about the need of helping young people have sex education in a way that was stigma free, and that was had by having an online module where they could take it in the privacy of their own space, right? And so she created an online module that really speaks to and provides sexual health education and it's for HBCU students. And so I was extremely excited about having the opportunity to help guide that process of helping her create that module, because that was something where again she saw the need. And so as a faculty member, but also as a person partnering with HBCU, that was an opportunity there. I think that HBCU faculty and institutional leaders can definitely embed RJ topics into teaching, but also research, right? And having the opportunity to look at some of the things that are really unique to Black women specifically.
Yeah.
So the Black maternal mortality rate, those things are extremely important for us to look at. I think there are other opportunities for faculty and institutional members to do like mentorships, right? And providing opportunities to mentor young people who have an interest in sexual and reproductive uh, health. And so those are just some of the things that are I'm thinking about. I'm sure there are so many more, but those are the things that pop in my head at first glance.
I love you for framing it that way. I loved how you thought about how students are centering their own approach to
Mm-hmm.
tackling these issues, not waiting for anyone to make change. They are truly the boots on the ground making the
Right,
efforts,
right.
pushing the movement forward. They are organizing for themselves and they are getting to the business. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that students are leading the change. We know that students are making their voices heard on campuses, but they can't do that alone. And faculty and staff members, institutional leaders, board members
Mm-hmm.
have the
Yes.
responsibility to make this work and meet them in this work. And I'm
Yes.
so happy that you uplifted the resource guide that your intern had created specifically for HBCUs. I think students having access to student created information that is one been vetted and ensured
Mm-hmm.
that is actually actual and factual. It is culturally relevant and important, as well as student centric. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it meets them where they are.
Oh,
More
absolutely.
students will cling on to that than just hearing, I don't know, older ladies, older people being like, well, y'all need to take y'all sexual health seriously. It's like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
okay, sure,
Right.
whatever. And I love that you phrase it like that. I love that you are lifting up the voices of young people at your HBCUs that you are connected to,
Thank
because we're
you.
doing the same thing for our students within the Next Generation Leadership Institute. Students are not asking for lip service. We're not asking for them to solve all the world's problems, but take one problem that they see on campus
Mm-hmm.
that they can fix and
Mm-hmm.
push that as an initiative on their campus. They're
Mm-hmm.
asking for infrastructure, they're asking for trust, they're asking for an investment in their leadership.
Yeah.
Dr. Floyd, I would also love for you to tell us a little bit more about how can faculty actually like stand in the gap and advocate for reproductive justice on their campuses.
Yeah.
So we talked about the resource guide. We've
Mm-hmm.
given that to them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what can they do with that?
Yeah, so one incorporated into their lessons. That's number one. Making sure that they are advocating for safe spaces for young people, right? Especially folks who uh, uh, identify as LGBTQ plus,
Mhm.
right? I think that is extremely important because we're just hearing about so many students who don't feel safe or seen. Um, and so we need to do better about making sure we do that. For institutional leaders, can definitely advocate for funding
Hey
and
now.
right? We
Go
got
for
to
you
take it.
first.
I'm trying to make it full circle, right? Like, so like advocating for funding and advocating for policies and practices on campus, right? And so making sure that they're uplifting and talking about their campuses being safe spaces, and not just having and saying it, but actually, like you said, putting boots to the ground and making sure that it's actionable, right? And that
Hmm.
we are looking out for and meeting the needs for all of our students, not just students that we feel need to based off of morals or values or etc. It's not about that. It's about making sure that all young people are being able to strive and thrive on our campuses. And so I think that is one or some of the things that are most important, and definitely like normalizing uh, being a safe and affirming space. So some of the things, those real world things that can
Yeah,
happen, and so um, yeah, those are the things that are coming to the top of my mind as we're talking at this time.
absolutely. Dr. Floyd, those are powerful keys, notes, nuggets, pieces of information that faculty members can easily incorporate into what they're already doing for students, not only just cultivating those safe spaces, but making them brave spaces,
Hmm.
ensuring students are leaving out well-rounded individuals and not remaining stagnant in the spaces that they are or where they have been before.
Right,
I think it's a powerful reminder that advocacy does not always look like being in the front of the protest or
right.
at the front of the mic. It might look like opening a door,
Hmm.
co-signing a student-led proposal, or showing up to a campus, showing up when campus leadership is pushing back against students for their requests, needs, desires, whatever the case may
Absolutely,
be. When
absolutely.
institutions choose to support instead of suppress, students thrive, students grow. We've
Hmm.
seen students blossom and expand beyond our wildest beliefs. And when students thrive, our movement, all movements, truly grow.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, Dr. Floyd, I would like to thank you so much for being in conversation with us today and for everything that you've shared with such clarity, care, and backed by science. Okay, backed
Jack,
by facts.
listen, it gotta make sense, right? We got
It has to make sense. It's testable. It's been tried.
yeah,
Tried and true.
yeah.
And we understand that this topic can be heavy. It can be a little bit taboo for folks who maybe this is your first time hearing about what comprehensive sex ed is. Wow, this is a high overview.
Hmm.
Sexual education spans so many things from
Absolutely.
autonomy to SDI to anatomy to dating culture to
Hmm.
so many things.
Yeah.
So comprehensive. And that's why, hence the word comprehensive sex
Comprehensive,
ed.
absolutely, absolutely, and just I know that we're running short of time, but I really do. I want to highlight that, right? That comprehensive sex ed is not just about like uh right, just the reproductive piece, right?
Yeah.
That's oftentimes that's the way it's framed, particularly in high school curricula, etc. But it's that about that bodily autonomy and consent and understanding, those what that means and why it's so important. And it's all about, like you said, making decisions on what you want for yourself, right? And how to go about making sure that that is what you get. And so all of those things are part, like you said, of comprehensive sex education and why it is so important.
Absolutely. Like I said, this topic can be heavy, but you
Hmm.
reminded us today that it is also full of possibility, full of wonder, especially when we center students, trust their leadership, listen to their voices, and build the kind of campuses that we deserve.
Hmm.
Before we clock out, finally, can you let folks know where they can follow your work or support the efforts that you have going on at the Advocates for You?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find us on Advocates for You. So we are on the social media platforms, IG. specifically TikTok, even. So
Come on, TikTok.
come on, listen. Now I'm not doing all but there are videos up there. There are videos out there doing it, but yeah. So you can definitely follow the work of Advocates for Youth on social media, and then of course visit our website. There's so many things that we are doing and really uplifting the conversation around racial justice and sex ed and what that looks like. And then I think that's mainly. I am not as active on social media as I should be. I'm getting up there. I'm getting old, but
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
I look to the young people that I am in community with to help guide the work and make sure that I'm always making sure that the work is youth centered and youth led.
Absolutely. And that's perfect. We will make sure to drop those links in the chat in our stories today after this conversation. And I just want to wrap us up with some closing remarks. But as always, thank you, Dr. Floyd, for your time, your wisdom, and your courage to keep pushing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And before we wrap up today, I just want to say that it has been a 3-part series thus far. We only have one more to go, and I have enjoyed this run thus far, but we are closing out on a high note. With that being said, these conversations matter because you are in them and because we are willing to imagine more of our campuses and communities, and we're not done yet. Join us next Thursday for our final conversation, hosted on August the 28th at 1 p.m. right here on IG Live, Facebook Live, wherever you are tuning in at the moment for our final installment of the Summer Wind Down series. I will be in conversation with our Director of Programs and Training, Giovante Bishop, here at In Our Own Voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda, where we will reflect on the power of youth leadership and vision in the reproductive justice movement. And where do we go from here? Trust me, you don't want to miss it. And last but not least, final roll call. I'm going to ask y'all again, like I've been asking y'all for the past 3 weeks. Do you want to win the Telfar? If you do, it is time for you, if you are a current HBCU student or you're working closely with HBCU students, faculty, staff, alumni, we want to hear from you. Please take a few minutes to fill out our HBCU Reproductive Justice Survey, where you'll find the link in our bio or on the screen right now. We are looking to hear your voices. Your voices shape the strategy, support, and future of reproductive justice on our campuses. This isn't just a form. This is a tool for liberation. And we are so excited to hear from you. And with that being said, I would like to thank you all for being here today. And I will see you guys for our final installment next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
In a time when our rights and our lives are under attack, we need bold truths and trusted voices leading the way. Outspoken with Regina brings policy, power, and purpose together, uncensored, unfiltered, and unapologetic. Now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. Follow, subscribe, and speak truth with us. This is Outspoken with Regina, and we're just getting started.